Well, here I am again. Can't sleep, so I just decided to go ahead and get up, walk around for a while, just whatever it takes. Um, as I've said before, I'm just recording these to pass down to my kids, and I'm using YouTube to store them so that maybe someday they'll see them. And if somebody happens to see these and you get something out of it, that's great. But just a lot of life lessons, how my life's went, things I've learned, things that I really feel that can help other people, and is a very important stuff to know. I'm going to be making a lot of these. I'm just getting started, and so it's going to seem pretty sporadic if you pick up on one and you've not really followed along or something. So hopefully they'll come out in a somewhat of an order. I don't know, but you'll have to piece it together. My kids are pretty smart, so I'm sure that they'll figure it out. But I just kind of, I guess today, this morning, I kind of wanted to go through a little bit of what my life was like growing up and some lessons I learned from that. Um, I had a real good early childhood. We moved around a lot. We were very poor. I didn't know it. Me and my brother's 6 years younger than me, and we had no idea that we were poor. If anything, I probably went to school bragging too much because I would get out and work and buy things, and you know, stuff that interested me: guns, knives, bows and arrows, throwing stars. You know how young boys are. And so I would buy these things and I'd work pretty hard to get them. And so I'd go to school and brag a lot about what all that I had. And I guess that people thought that I had money, and I didn't, and we didn't at all. And so I remember one time there was a boy come to spend the night with me that I was friends with, and his sister and his mom was with him, and we'd all talked because I'd spent the night at their house before. And when we pulled up into my driveway and I showed him where I lived, a little rundown mobile home, just on a little spot of a side of a bank. And I remember the girl, she didn't mean anything. It's just one of those things that come out when you're young and you're not thinking about somebody's feelings or something. She was like, this is where you live? I expected something much bigger or better. And I remember that locked in with me, that I kind of realized, hey, I'm probably getting into this a little bit too much about sounding braggadocious, I guess is a word. But anyway, I'm kind of digressing, sorry. But our childhood was really good. There was a lot of issues. My mom come from a really bad background. I never knew and figured out any of this till I got older, much older, almost just a couple of years ago, and I'm almost 50. That made her the way she was. Her and I were very close and extremely close. But if anything, she used me for like a support system or a go-to with things. And so if anything was going on, with her and my dad, or they were having bad times or something, then she usually, kind of told me about it, sounded everything off to me. And, if you've got kids, whenever they're young, they can't handle that. It's too much for them. And I try to make sure that I don't put my kids through that, because I've got that in me from my mom. And I've got some bad things, from my Fox side too, but especially my mom's side of the family. But I guess there's so many things that I want to add. I'm probably going to be adding a lot to this, and it's going to go back and forth a little bit, but I'm just going to go kind of an overall on this one. Grew up farming, raising tobacco and produce, and things like that. That was a really good life that I loved. I enjoyed getting out. The biggest reason, it was really hard work, but I loved getting out and being with friends and family. And I developed a lot of friendships with people that I normally never would have. There was some people that lived in my community that were kind of the outcast of society, and they were old mountain people. And I mean, they were what you think of when you think of Appalachian Americans. I loved them. They were genuine. You knew exactly what you got when you were around them. You knew how to take them. They hadn't been into society so much that they tried to cover up who they were or anything. They were just raw. And I loved it. We had the best times. It was so comical. It was like a movie, just some kind of Jerry Clowers type thing every day. And so I ended up liking doing that so much that I done it for quite a while till when I became an adult. But I guess I started staying with a lady whenever I was very young, and I call her Granny Lear. She wasn't my blood grandmother, but she was like a grandmother to me, and she was one of the best people in my community. Her whole family, everybody in her family was just unbelievable people, and really good people, good Christian people with morals and decency. That World War II generation, I call it, people that were kind of, went through the Great Depression and World War II and stuff. They were a different type people. They were hard workers. They were good people. Never seen anybody like them in my life, and I really miss them so much. I don't know. You wouldn't believe the nights, and I've cried, and I think every day about them, and wished I'd cherished them more, and had more experiences and listened to them more. Because when you're young, you don't listen. You just hear them tell stories about the war and things it was like when they was growing up, and take some of it in, but some of it, I kind of just let go, and I wished I hadn't, because now I really would like to know all of it more. But I started staying with her a lot, and my mom and dad both had to work. My dad, he worked, but it seemed like his money always just went out the door. And so my mom had to be this whole family support system most of my life. She worked really hard and then come in, trying to do things. And there's a lot of good about my mom. Now, we've really drifted apart since I've been an adult. We barely speak. I try hard to have a relationship with her before, but it seems like that there's something there from her mental hang-ups and things. And I understand them more now because I've got them, I've dealt with them, I've fought them. I see how to kind of not pass them on to my kids and stuff. And so I do understand her and forgive her a lot. But I'm really fortunate that I was raised by my Granny Lear and my Mama Fox. That was my blood grandmother. They were, like I said about Lear, the same could apply to May. She was just unbelievable. I named my youngest daughter May Lear after the both of them because they made such an impact in my life. I've worried a lot if I'm a misogynistic type person. Maybe I am a little bit. I'm not quite sure, but I think what it is just when you grew up with that caliber of woman and you see that that's what a woman's supposed to be like and how they were used to be. You want that again because that was it's just how God made it, I believe. But anyway, though, there was a guy, and I won't really go into all this details. I'll just kind of make this real brief. But there was a guy that stayed with my grandmother, and he ended up sexually abusing me pretty badly. I had kind of compartmentalized it and just hid it and didn't really think about it. Couldn't even remember it for years. Little bits and pieces here and there and stuff till it finally come out, many years ago, and I was able to remember everything. But my grandmother found out about it and told my mom, and my mom wouldn't tell my dad because he knew that my dad would probably kill the boy, and he was just a teenager, and so I understand her not doing that, but I don't understand her not taking me out of the situation or making sure that I wasn't in it. She just left me in it. But that was one of the things that I think caused a real problem between us. And she's talked about it before, but then she just would start hysterically crying and go into something else. And I seen it, I guess. It made me mad that she wouldn't acknowledge it, but I guess it was just too much for her, that she feels too much guilt from it. But so that kind of started molding me in ways that I wish that it hadn't. I'll go into a lot of this and a lot more other things. Like I say, I'm just going to keep this one brief and kind of just hit some highlights. But whenever I started getting a little bit older, I guess that I started developing tendencies that I wished I hadn't have because of that I liked the way that I viewed people, the way that I kind of thought about things. It changed my nature. And so I can understand when somebody's been sexually abused or something, the problems and hangups they have, and can kind of relate to it a little bit. I think it's caused a lot of problems in my adult life and relationships, and me trying not to let it. But there's things there. But my mom and dad ended up divorcing whenever I was about 14. I was maybe 14 and a half or 15. But they started having problems then. And so my mom, I remember I had to beat the door down one time, break the door down because she had locked herself in the bedroom screaming she was going to kill herself. I guess just wanting attention, and I was the only one there that would give it to her. My dad was gone like usual. off with somebody or woman or something. And so that kind of psychologically starts messing you up whenever you're having to be the parent, so to speak, in the family. But there is a lot of good things. And when I say a lot of these things that sound like they were really bad, I want you to know that I am thankful for them. And I thank God that all of it happened to me, because later in life, it taught me God used it in my life. I think he gives us things that he knows that we can handle in order to try to help other people if we'll see it that way. And he sure did me with a lot of this stuff. But I'm getting so wrapped up into some things I want to say that I'm kind of forgetting where I was trailing with a lot of this. But anyway, though, my mom and dad, whenever they broke up, I had this childhood sweetheart, and I had kind of fell in love with her. And my mom was moving away. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to leave my area, leave all my friends, my family, everything that I loved was on Laurel. And if you're familiar with where Laurel is in Madison County, North Carolina, then you'll understand why that I didn't want to leave it. It's a real special place, at least it used to be before people started moving in and changing it. But I stayed. So I ended up moving out and living in my car. And I was farming, raising tobacco. All this, by the time I actually didn't even have my license when it first happened, but I just got them about the time it was going on. And so I spent a couple years living in my car. Sometimes I would stay with people, in the wintertime, some people would let me stay with them and stuff and things. There was a lot of days I didn't have anything to eat if it wasn't for my girlfriend at the time. And her and I were together for about 11 years. She kind of really supported me and took care of me. She fed me. Her and her family all took me in like that. They were just that kind of people. And actually, it's kind of funny because my Granny Lear I'm talking about, that's not my blood grandmother, was her great aunt. And so it's kind of like a family thing that they're caretakers, nurturers, givers, all that stuff. But anyway, though, I'm really thankful for all that. But I started working real hard. And, you're out here working in tobacco fields. I remember some of the first jobs that I ever had. I was working for $3.80 an hour for Roy Ledford, old man that had been in World War II, and listening to his stories. And I'd love to tell some of those sometime too. But $3.80 an hour, farming, carrying barbed wire, fencing, straight up the side of mountains and going through the woods. It was unbelievable. And here I was, a young man that should have been really capable. And this 70-some-year-old man was just carrying this and doing it like it was nothing. And telling about, carrying backpacks up rock cliffs whenever they were taking, I forget now the name of the beach. And I know it so well and stuff. Angio Beachhead, maybe, during the war, whichever one that they had to go across the cliffs and carrying, 70-pound packs and stuff. Well, that stuck with him all his life because he could do it whenever he was 70. But anyway, and he gave me one meal a day. I got to eat with him and his wife of the nights, the evenings when we got done working. And I lived in a little rundown trailer. I started renting it from him. And he let me live there to fix the place up for 6 months or something before I had to start paying rent. And it didn't have hot water, didn't have heat. It had running cold water, but that was it. And so it was like I was permanently camping out. About froze to death in that place. I mean, you'd wake up in the mornings in the wintertime and ice froze on the windows from your breath. And it was something else. But all this built me and helped me and made me. And it just kind of set me up for life. And I'm so thankful again that all these things happened to me the way that they did, and God used them. And so I started working for people farming, and I got, where I was able to charge going rate that time. By that time was about $5 an hour for doing that. And so I worked for years doing that at $5 an hour, even back in the early, like 1990 or whatever it was, 92. That wasn't enough to live on. That wasn't enough to get by. That wasn't enough to do anything. And so, especially, whenever you take into account being young and kind of sometimes not being too good with money. And that developed in me to where I always, all my life, whenever I would work, I would think, before I would buy something, I would think, how long do I have to work for this? And, if something costs $15, how many hours did I have to work to have that? And half the time you'll put it back, most of the time you'll put it back down because you're like, well, I don't need that bad. And I'm thankful that created in me that I saved money. so that I used it for bigger things, like maybe buying land and building houses and stuff and things that I've been able to do in my life. I started a business. I had always weeded and worked for people and stuff, but I went to Wolf Laurel. It's a community that I live that's like for the rich people, a private gated community back up in the mountains next to Ball Mountain on the Appalachian Trail. Beautiful place. It's in my blood. I love that place. And I've worked there all my life. Ever since I started my business then. And I started just doing odd jobs for people and was able to charge a lot more than I was, in the tobacco fields and things. And slowly I started, being able to buy a vehicle that didn't break down every time, a truck that, didn't break down every time I got in it. And it took years, of course, years. Rented a couple places and was still growing tobacco. I ended up buying the trailer that I grew up in from my mom and dad because they couldn't ever settle through their divorce. And so I ended up buying it from them. And so I lived there for several years. But I'm going to kind of fast forward because I'm making this video way too long on the first one. I did not mean to go this far. But I guess right now I would like to go into a few things since I'm talking about stuff that having it really hard taught me. I want to go back to the sexual abuse thing. I know it messed with me and messed me up psychologically, but let me tell you what happened. My oldest daughter, whenever she was probably about 4 years old, I really regret that I wasn't with her more. And I only got to see her every other weekend. She lived kind of far away. And so things just really didn't work out. Me and her mom didn't get along at all. We were nothing alike. And anything that she hated, I probably was. Anything I hated, she was. And it's Gray, when she got older, used to even say, I don't know why my mom and you ever even went out. And but anyway, though, Gray was staying with me one weekend, and she had been going to a new babysitter for a while that was really renowned in that area for being good with children. And this woman had recently got married. And unbeknownst to anybody, apparently this guy was a pedophile. And maybe, I forget all the terminology and stuff that some of my law enforcement friends told me. But maybe he had even seek this woman out because she dealt with children and stuff. I don't know. Maybe he just fell into it. But I was putting Gray to bed one night, and she was telling me she was afraid. And I'm like, baby, why are you afraid? You know that I would die before I let anything happen to you. It'd have to kill me first. And she's like, I'm just afraid. And I'm like, what do you have to be afraid of? And we were talking about it and stuff. And I said, I would not let anything or anybody hurt you. And she said, well, Mr. Steve does. And something happened to me that I thought, check into this, see what this is about. And so I didn't want to lead her into saying anything. And I kind of was really careful how I approached it. We read some Bible stories and stuff and talked throughout. This was over, probably a 30-minute period. And so lo and behold, she ended up kind of telling me that this Mr. Steve, he was giving her candy and stuff. And whenever she'd get off away with him and things, that he would tickle her. And she showed me where he would tickle her. Well, where it was at. And grooming, he was grooming her. And so I really was able to see exactly what was going on because her mom and her grandmother are some of the best parents, and they were really well off, give her a good life that I could have never gave her. And they really did a good job with her in a lot of ways. I wish that they would have been more Christian focused and minded like that, but I won't go into that right now either. But they didn't pick up none of this stuff because Gray was really forthcoming and stuff with it. But I did, and I knew instantly that it was because of what happened to me that I was able to see it. And so I won't go into all the details about what all transpired after that and stuff because it was a pretty bad deal, and had to threaten taking her away with me and everything else not to have her back in the situation. But I knew to stop the situation, which my mom did not stop. And so it ended up, I feel like, keeping it from going too far. Nothing too bad, really bad ever happened to her like it did me. And so I thank God for that so much. It's unbelievable. And I've had so many times in my life that things has happened that I just didn't understand at the time, and I hated it. And it's been hard, and I didn't think I was going to get through it. And every single time, somehow later down the road, God had a purpose for it, and He let me use it to help somebody or do something for somebody else. And a lot of times it's been my own children, and it's been like this one story that I've got, about I've already recorded that about saving my enemy's son. And I mean, just all kinds of things that's happened that it's just unbelievable how God works things out. Well, I really didn't expect this to go this long or go this way, and I thought I would just give a real brief go through of a lot of things, but I'm going to stop now and save some more of this for another day.